And speaking of real treats, to start us off here, we know how everyone feels about our carousel. This is something that is very special to us. It is something that for a number of years we have fretted over because, well, let's face it, its future at times was a little bit shaky. So, looking back through the history of a carousel here in Woodhaven, we did have a carousel for many years, around the turn of the century to until 1966, and at that point it burned down, and that was a day, even though many of us might not exactly remember the day. I certainly do remember my dad taking me to the spot and walking over the basically just burnt wood, And if you're ever up at Oak Ridge, the building up there, one of the original horses from the original carousel is in there. It's a real treat to see. So at that point, we were without a carousel, and there were stories in the paper, and there were people calling, hey, we need a new carousel. There was always one there. We need to get a new one. They talked about building a new one. There was all sorts of plans and discussions about what the city was going to do, what Parks was going to do, and different ideas about getting private people to build. And eventually the solution was to purchase an existing one. And one was purchased. It was the Lakeville Park Carousel in Massachusetts. And joining us tonight, this is a real treat, is a woman named Rebecca Duda, and she is an author who wrote a book about this town of Massachusetts, and she has some background, and we're going to bring her on right now. There we go. Rebecca, are you on the air?
Yes, Ed. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate it. It's our carousel is so beloved to us, but many people, they know it's a historic carousel. They know we've had a carousel here over 100 years, but a lot of people who may be new to the area are completely in the dark when it comes to the fact of the history of this. And a lot of us, even folks who've been here a long time, even though they know it came from someplace else, they really don't know much about this carousel pre-1972, let's say.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit about its background?
Sure. Well, as you said, I wrote a book about the town that I teach in, Dracut, which is in northern Massachusetts, right next to Lowell. Mm-hmm. And Dracut had, at the end of the 19th century, two of the premier resorts, lake resorts. The first being Willowdale on Lake Muscuppick. And then in 1889, Lakeview Park was built. And Lakeview Park is where your carousel was actually first installed. It was built for Lakeview Park. And it was built in Germany, and it stayed it's all hand-carved, made in Germany, and it was one of the premier sites at the park until it was dismantled in 1971. So it was operated by Louis Boff. It originally was not in a covered house or barn. Mm-hmm. It was just an open-air tent. And then eventually what they did was they built an enclosure for it with beautiful stained glass windows and everything. And it had its own organ, and it had, as you know, the hand-carved lions and tigers all around it. And it was 5 cents for a ride on the carousel. And it stayed at Lakeview Park until 1971 when it had to be dismantled because the family that owned it, the Barbuti family, they had to sell it because of vandalism, because by 1971 the park was really almost virtually gone along the shores of Lake Muscuppick. there was only a few rides left, one of them being the Carousel. And they didn't want to see, it had been in the family since 1918, and they didn't want to see the Carousel damaged any further, and that's when it was dismantled.
That's amazing. And you know, I always wondered how it came to be dismantled and sold, because it's such a treasure, and you know, you would hate to see. And as a matter of fact, a few years ago, we had heard rumors that New York City was looking to dismantle and sell it. Whether those rumors were true, we have no idea, but it did scare us, because we did not want to lose this. So on the site right now where it stood, what is there where Lakeview Park used to be?
Well, Lakeview Park was originally built in 1889, and the trolley from Lowell, Massachusetts would bring people from downtown Lowell down to the lake. And they had, you know, boat rides, the Carousel, places to eat, all kinds of activities. And through the years, they had a ballroom. How could I forget the ballroom? And the ballroom burnt in 1928, and it was rebuilt. And then it burnt again, and it was not rebuilt. And then by 1971, by the time the Carousel was vandalized and dismantled, they only had, I think, the Ferris wheel, the Carousel, and a few bumper cars. If you go down to Lake Niscuppock today, where the park was, it's basically apartment buildings, pretty much, with a few little, you know, eateries, but that's it. You would have no idea that Lakeview Park had been on that location.
Oh, that is so sad.
Yeah.
That is sad. That, you know, that's a loss. Now, in recent months, our Carousel has been in the news here because it received New York City landmark status. Are there people in Dracut who still remember the Carousel, and did this news cause any kind of a stir there?
Oh yeah, it was. I had done some research to see if it had made, the landmark status had made any headlines here, and in the Lowell Sun a few months back, there was, I think it was an Associated Press article, made the Lowell Sun, which is our local newspaper. Mm-hmm. But as far as the town is concerned, Lakeview Park has its own permanent exhibit at the Dracut Historical Society. And, in fact, the school I teach at is named Lakeview Junior High School, and it's on Lakeview Ave. So, I teach 8th grade, so though the kids I teach don't remember the park at all, there's still many in town that do, in fact, remember it. And when the Carousel was originally restored back in the 1980s by the Fabicon Company, the Dracut Historical Society had hired a local member of the society, Betty Baroni, to paint a picture of the Carousel. She had to do it from memory. And
wow.
They actually put out a call for anyone who had artifacts from the dismantling, that might be lying around, that would help her recreate in her painting an accurate Carousel, because she was doing it from memory. And by chance, the local antique dealer, James Keith, right on Lakeview Ave, came across 8 panels of stained glass from the original enclosure that was home to the Carousel. And Betty Baroni several people bought them, and she bought 2 of them. And she used the colors from the stained glass as the model for her painting. And then one panel was donated to the Dracut Historical Society, and they have a whole exhibit upstairs about Lakeview Park. Yeah, so it's still very much part of the town's history.
Oh, that's very, very good. And in a way, it links our 2 communities, and it's ironic that we lost our Carousel due to vandalism, and so did Dracut.
That's right.
In a sense, but yet it lives on here, and now will be protected due to the landmarking.
And, a few years back, I believe members from the Dracut Historical, when it first went to Forest Park, I believe members from the Dracut Historical Society drove down to visit the carousel.
Oh, nice. Okay. That
didn't make my book, unfortunately, but through my research, I remember seeing the photographs in the archives of the Historical Society, and they were thrilled that the carousel, was still able to be used, because it was built by Daniel Muller, I believe.
Yeah.
And there's only two of them left in the United States, and one of them is the Lakeview Carousel.
That's it's real good, and I'm real interested if anyone from Dracut ever comes down again, please, let us know. We'll go and meet them there and make sure they have a good time. It really is the new vendors, the new operators of it are very, very good people, very great caretakers of it. Unfortunately, it's had a little bit of drama in the years since it's been here, where once it kind of fell into disrepair, and then another time, most recently, it was shuttered and closed. But these guys have come in and really taken great care of it, and they've really opened it up. Whereas
good.
It was where it was before, it was almost like jail bars that surrounded it, and the prior operators didn't even open up all the shutters on the building, so the children were riding it in the dark.
Oh, no, that's not the way it was meant to be ridden at all.
No,
there's a photograph in my book from when it must have first come over, 1900, and it's under a tent. It was open air, and then the enclosure comes much later. So it was never meant to be, ridden like that. So I'm glad to hear that the owners have opened it up.
Yeah, they opened it up, and it's they got rid of the bars around it. It's just kind of a waist high bar that a fence that goes around it, and so now when parents put their children on it from any vantage point, from any place, they can get a clear look at them. When you're on the ride, you can see, because it's in a beautiful section of the park. Our block association and historical society, when we were calling for it to be landmark, had actually been considering calling for a landmark of the entire district, because we have a greenhouse which is 100+ years old, a golf course, a band shell which is close to 100 years old. There's a lot of things in the area which makes it a really very, very nice and cared for area. So it's come here, and it's in good company, and it's very loved.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, because it's very beloved in Dracut, where it comes from. And in fact, that was it's in the book that I wrote, covers the 20th century, and it's one of the few things that made it in the first chapter, which starts in 1900, and it made it into the last chapter as well.
Wow.
Yeah, because it played that. Lakeview Park in general played a very significant role in the town, but the carousel, people still talk about it, and they miss it. But they're glad to hear that it has a new home. So.
That is great, and for anyone who out there, our residents and our fans of the carousel who are interested, this book you could find this on Amazon, Dracut Revisited. It's an Images of America book, which we're all familiar with them. They put out a great series of books, and if you get that, you're going to get a couple of pictures of the carousel in its life before Woodhaven. And listen, if you're a carousel fan, it's a great book to pick up. And as a matter of fact, we plan on picking up a copy and auctioning it off at our annual fundraiser this in a couple of weeks. So
that's wonderful, Ed.
So
good. I'm glad it's helpful down there to learn about the history of Lakeview and the carousel, and the town itself has an interesting history. But like what you just said, the carousel's in this area now with several other historical landmarks. The same thing with Lakeview. It was surrounded by a theater. It was surrounded by a ballroom. It was really a vibrant part of the town life, and the Carousel was part of that. So, well,
I tell you, if only we could keep things the way they were, right, without things changing. So, listen, Rebecca, I want to thank you so much for calling in. It's been a lovely treat to talk to you. And,
my pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out and asking more about the history of the Carousel. Dracut's thrilled that it has a home now down in New York.
That's great. All right, well, listen, thank you very much, dear. You have a great night, and hopefully we'll stay in touch. All
right, sounds good. Thanks, Ed.
All right, so long.
Bye now.
That's Rebecca Duda, and that book again. You can go to Amazon, Dracut Revisited. That's Dracut, D-R-A-C-U-T, Revisited, and the other writer says maybe she can sign it. Yeah, you know what? I'll get in touch to see if she can do it. That would be good. Or I could get it and sign it with her name. Yeah. That's something really interesting. Here I learned a few things there. Did you guys know that it was carved in Germany? It was built in Germany? I didn't know that. I don't know why. I don't know where. I never really gave it much thought about where it was actually, constructed. But there you have it. Built in Germany and transported over here. And again, I didn't know that they had dismantled it because of vandalism.